You think charisma is about being liked? You are the mark. True power is not persuading the willing, but weaponizing the subconscious of the unwilling. The lens of emitter versus receiver. You have been taught to see charisma as a social virtue, a gentle art of connection. This is the first and most debilitating lie. It frames you as a supplicant, performing for the validation of the room, hoping your smile is warm enough, your joke sharp enough, your posture open enough to earn their favor. This is the psychology of the receiver. You are tuned to their frequency, anxiously scanning for their signals, begging for a place in their hierarchy with your pleasantries. It is a beggar's strategy. We dismantle that frame here. Elite charisma operates on a single, irreversible principle. You are not a receiver. You are an emitter. The difference is not semantic. It is existential. The receiver seeks to absorb and reflect energy. The emitter generates and projects a field. This field is a composite signal of unshakable internal reality, of consequence, of latent capacity. It is not about being liked. It is about being cognitively unavoidable. When you walk into a space, you are not asking permission to exist within it. You are broadcasting the terms of engagement. You are not reading the room. The room is reading you and finding its own social algorithms disrupted. This lens shift moves charisma from the domain of social skills into the domain of applied psychology and territory. The charismatic individual does not persuade. He dictates the psychological environment. He does not seek attention. He imposes presence. The warmth you associate with charisma is merely one possible emission, a calculated choice, a velvet glove over an iron will. The darkest level understands that colder emissions, detached calm, measured silence, unnerving stillness, often transmit a far more powerful and colonizing signal. They do not invite agreement. They command assessment. Your task is to stop auditing yourself through the eyes of others and to begin broadcasting from a fortress of unassailable self-containment. The battlefield is not their opinion. It is their subconscious, and you are the first and final signal it must process. The mechanism of subconscious colonization. Understand this. Conscious agreement is the last step in a long chain of psychological conquest. The conscious mind is a gatekeeper, weak and easily misdirected. It operates on logic, words, and socially acceptable justifications. Beneath it lies the true battlefield, the subconscious, a primal engine running on imagery, emotion, and physiological states. This is the territory you must claim. The mechanism of dark charisma is not persuasion. It is subconscious colonization. Your target's logical mind may hear your words, but their subconscious is absorbing your state. Are you emitting ease or anxiety, certainty or neediness, sovereignty or supplication? This transmission bypasses all intellectual defenses. When you emit a state of deep, unshakable calm, you are not telling someone to be calm. You are infecting their nervous system with calm, creating a physiological debt they feel compelled to resolve. This is the anchor. When you emit detached, observational curiosity, you are not asking for answers. You are implanting a seed of intrigue that compels them to fill the silence you have created. You colonize by first creating a void within them, and then selectively allowing them to fill it with what you have decided is permissible. This is a process of neurological hijacking. It works because human brains are wired for mirroring and resonance. Your posture, your breathing cadence, the precise tension in your vocal cords, all of these are silent commands that trigger mirror neurons in your target. You are not having a conversation. You are conducting a silent symphony of their biological and emotional responses. A smile, then, is not friendly. It is a surgical tool deployed to induce a specific chemical release, dopamine, oxytocin, in them, forging a subconscious association between your presence and reward. A prolonged, unblinking stare is not rude. It is a dominance trigger that floods the primitive brain with cortisol, signaling a threat assessment and forcing them into a reactive, submissive mode. You are not communicating ideas. You are deploying psychological and biological payloads that restructure the internal environment of everyone within your field. This is the core mechanism. You become the source code for the emotional and physiological reality of the interaction. The 3 dark archetypes of transmission. Once you understand the mechanism, you must choose your weapon. There is no single charismatic personality. There are modes of operation, archetypes of transmission, each emitting a distinct signal that colonizes the subconscious through a different vector. These are not masks to wear, but strategic identities to inhabit. Master one, and you become a force. Understand all 3, and you become an architect of human response. The first is the sovereign. This archetype emits a signal of absolute unearned authority. It is not loud. It is heavy. The sovereign operates on the currency of presence and consequence. His language is slow. His movements are deliberate. His silence is dense. He does not seek to fill space. His presence becomes the space. The subconscious colonization here works through awe and the deep-seated human deference to natural hierarchy. People do not agree with the sovereign. They accede to his reality. He is the mountain, immovable, indifferent, and fundamentally consequential. His power is in his perceptual inertia. The second is the phantom. This archetype emits a signal of elusive, intriguing absence. Where the sovereign is overwhelmingly present, the phantom is defined by controlled scarcity. He is a master of strategic withdrawal, of revealing only calibrated fragments. He speaks less, reveals little, and is never fully known. This creates a psychological vacuum in others, a compulsive need to solve him, to gain his validation, to pull him into full view. The phantom colonizes through the human obsession with pattern completion and the fear of the unknown. He is the shadow in the periphery, always felt, never grasped. His power is in the hunger he creates. The third is the Tempest. This archetype emits a signal of calibrated, unpredictable volatility. He is not chaotic, but strategically incalculable. His emotional range is wide. His reactions seem disproportionate, yet purposeful. This triggers high alert status in the subconscious of others. They are constantly scanning, trying to predict, desperate to stabilize the environment he controls. The Tempest colonizes through controlled disequilibrium. He is the storm, terrifying, electrifying, and utterly dominant over the atmospheric pressure of the room. His power is in the adrenaline of uncertainty. These are your templates. The sovereign commands. The phantom haunts. The tempest unsettles. Each forces the world into a reactive posture. Choose your vector of invasion. The threat of the charismatic environment. This is not a parlor trick. This is ecology. In any environment, a boardroom, a social circle, a relationship, there exists a charismatic vacuum, a void of unclaimed psychological territory, and nature, in its utter ruthlessness, abhors a vacuum. This space will be filled. The only question is, by whom? If you are not emitting a sovereign signal, you are not neutral. You are fuel. You are the raw material for the ecosystem that someone else is designing. Your passive warmth, your eager agreement, your desperate need for harmony. These are not virtues. They are energy sources being harvested by the nearest emitter. Consider the historical record. not the sanitized version. Look at the moments of silent coup, of cultural shifts, of revolutions that began not with a manifesto, but with a glance. The courtier who said little, but whose approval the king sought. The figure at the party who held no title, yet around whom every conversation eventually orbited. They understood the environment. They did not argue ideology. They became the climate. Everyone else was merely living in it, adapting to its unspoken rules, breathing the air they permitted. When you lack this emission, you are not a participant. You are part of the scenery. You are the territory over which silent wars are fought. Your loyalty, your labor, your attention, these are the resources being extracted by those who have mastered the emission of consequence. The long-term consequence is a form of soft annexation. Your will atrophies. Your decisions become subtle echoes of the strongest signal in the room. You believe you are choosing, but you are merely ratifying the reality architected by another. Your relationships, your career trajectory, your very identity becomes a byproduct of the charismatic environments you inhabit but do not control. This is the true threat, a life lived as a dependent variable. Evolutionary logic is clear. There are those who shape the selection pressure and those who are selected by it. The emitter is the selector. The receiver is the subject of selection. There is no middle ground. There is only the active imposition of reality or the passive inheritance of someone else's. The strategic emitter's protocol, your former self-sought charisma, your new objective is signal dominance. This is not an attitude. It is a protocol, a series of cold, executable actions that construct your field from the ground up. We move from theory to behavioral engineering. Forget motivation. Implement discipline. Phase 1, the containment drill. Your first and only priority is the absolute fortification of your internal state. Your emotions are not to be expressed. They are strategic reserves to be deployed. Practice physiological stillness, a breath pattern that cannot be rushed, a gaze that does not flicker from its target, a posture that occupies space without seeking to. This is not for them. This is the foundation of your broadcast tower. When your internal state is impervious to external noise, you cease to be reactive. You become a source. You are now emitting the first, most critical signal, self-containment. This makes you psychologically opaque and therefore inherently powerful. Phase 2, environmental steering. You do not enter a room. You sample it. Your initial 60 seconds are a silent audit. You identify the existing emotional currents, the anxiety, the need, the hierarchy. You then introduce a counter signal. If the room is frantic, your emission is glacial calm. If the room is somber, your emission is detached, analytical curiosity. You do not match the energy. You contrast it. This contrast creates a magnetic differential. People are drawn not to similarity, but to the point of greatest stability and certainty in the system. By refusing to mirror, you become that point. You steer by remaining immovable while the environment adjusts to your coordinates. Phase 3, the art of the void. The deepest form of control is the control of absence. Master strategic silence. Let your pauses linger 3 beats beyond comfort. Answer questions with a question that reframes the premise. Withhold validation. When you do not reward expected behavior, you collapse the other person's script. They are forced to operate in a void you created, and in that void, they will reveal their needs, their insecurities, their bargaining position. Your power lies in what you do not say, do not promise, do not react to. You are not having a dialogue. You are conducting a psychological excavation with your silence as the tool. This protocol is mechanical. It replaces the need for feeling charismatic with the act of executing dominance. You are no longer a participant in the social game. You are its silent referee and architect. Identity. Death of the supplicant. The protocol is useless if the operator is compromised. The man who executes these steps while secretly craving approval is a counterfeit, and the world will detect the dissonance. A new tool requires a new hand. This is not adjustment. This is identity death. The old identity, the supplicant, must be incinerated. Its core belief was that value is derived from external resonance. Its currency was approval. Its strategy was negotiation. Its death rattle is the lingering fear that this is all too cold, that you're losing your humanity. That fear is the final anchor of the weak. Let it drown. The supplicant believes connection is the goal. The emitter understands connection is a tool and often a byproduct of dominance, never its aim. The supplicant seeks to be understood. The emitter cultivates being unfathomable. The supplicant's power is loaned to him by the consensus of others. The emitter's power is generated by his own self-containment and projected will. This is the metamorphosis. You must stop seeing people as sources of validation and start seeing them as landscapes to be read, energies to be steered, and territories to be subtly influenced. Your empathy does not vanish. It becomes tactical. You understand others not to connect with them, but to predict them and thus to guide them. Forging this new identity is an act of sustained psychological sovereignty. You will feel like a ghost in your old life. Your old jokes will feel cheap. Your old desires for camaraderie will taste like ash. This is correct. You're shedding the nervous system of the prey. The new identity is built on a single, non-negotiable principle. I am the sole author of my internal state. From this principle, everything else flows. Your calm, your silence, your unwavering frame. You do not win arguments. You render them obsolete by presenting a reality so composed that opposition to it seems irrational, hysterical. The emitter does not convince the mind. He overwrites the environment. The death of the supplicant is the quietest, most profound victory you will ever earn. It is the moment you cease to be a character in someone else's story and become the gravity well around which all orbits must bend. The final selection. This knowledge is a solvent. It will dissolve the world you knew and leave you standing in the raw architecture of human interaction. You now see the wires, the levers, the empty thrones. This is the point of divergence. The final selection. Most who hear this will shrink back. They will call it manipulation. They will retreat to the warm, familiar prison of seeking to be liked, where their compliance is traded for fleeting comfort. Their fate is written. They will remain fuel. They will be the atmosphere in another man's empire, breathing the air he allows, believing it freedom. For you, the path is cold and silent. This is not a tool for petty social gains. To use it for such is to remain a slave with a sharper whip. The true application is sovereignty building. To emit this signal is to claim unspoken authority over every room you enter, to shape decisions before they are voiced, to attract resources and loyalty not by asking, but by being the undeniable point of convergence. Your goal is not to win a conversation. It is to become the context in which all conversations occur. You build a territory of influence where your reality is the default reality. This is your final warning. Power of this nature isolates. It will reveal the transactional core of most human bonds. The new identity is built on a single, non-negotiable principle. I am the sole author of my internal state. From this principle, everything else flows. Your calm, your silence, your unwavering frame. You do not win arguments. You render them obsolete by presenting a reality so composed that opposition to it seems irrational, hysterical. The emitter does not convince the mind. He overwrites the environment. The death of the supplicant is the quietest, most profound victory you will ever earn. It is the moment you cease to be a character in someone else's story and become the gravity well around which all orbits must bend. The final selection. This knowledge is a solvent. It will dissolve the world you knew and leave you standing in the raw architecture of human interaction. You now see the wires, the levers, the empty thrones. This is the point of divergence. The final selection. Most who hear this will shrink back. They will call it manipulation. They will retreat to the warm, familiar prison of seeking to be liked, where their compliance is traded for fleeting comfort. Their fate is written. They will remain fuel. They will be the atmosphere in another man's empire, breathing the air he allows, believing it freedom. For you, the path is cold and silent. This is not a tool for petty social gains. To use it for such is to remain a slave with a sharper whip. The true application is sovereignty building. To emit this signal is to claim unspoken authority over every room you enter, to shape decisions before they are voiced, to attract resources and loyalty not by asking, but by being the undeniable point of convergence. Your goal is not to win a conversation. It is to become the context in which all conversations occur. You build a territory of influence where your reality is the default reality. This is your final warning. Power of this nature isolates. It will reveal the transactional core of most human bonds. You will see the need in their eyes when they look at you, not the connection. You must be prepared to govern from that loneliness. It is the cost of the throne. The call to action is not for everyone. It is for the 1% of the 1% who can bear the weight of this lens. Your directive is simple. Begin the emission. Start today. In your next interaction, practice the containment drill. Steer the environment with a single contrasting signal. Create one strategic void. Observe the shift. This is not practice. This is the first act of colonization. The old world is dead. You are no longer its subject. You are the signal cutting through its static. The broadcast begins now. Transmit